Hello everyone, Rich Carlton here. Welcome to Wednesday. Big Wednesday for us. We are busily shipping the FileMaker products out to you. Awesome. And then Christian Olson, are you there, Christian?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So we are getting all this going. So we are going to be doing some demos and stuff, although it's kind of open-ended day once again today. We covered a lot of stuff last week. Great. Ed say, I'm extracting the file from the container. I want to strip the period or whatever extension ideas. Yes. So we cover this. I don't know that I have a functional demo, Ed, for you at the moment. Ed on YouTube saying, I'm totally question out of the blue. I'm extracting the file name from a container. I want to strip the period and whatever extension might be there. So when you take a look at the demos of us, I think we had a demo of this we put out. We were talking about the idea of saving stuff, doing exports. You actually put you can actually customize the file name on there when you're creating the export out. I believe that's the case. I would have to pull a demo for that. I don't know that I'd want to code that in real time in front of you with an impending space launch and everything else going on. We can go back and cover that one. I mean, doing exports and creating PDFs on the desktop and creating exporting out of containers onto the desktop or some location. You folks asked me that about once a week. In the last week, since 19 came out, no one's asked it to me, but this is, here we go again. So, and Ed, I don't know, you may have asked this before, but there we go. So,
if you want, Richard, Ed in the Google has a question, and rather than me typing it out, I could give him a possible solution.
Well, you can. I mean, we've demoed this before, Christian, a number of times. This is like the number one requested thing that FileMaker people, I found out, care about. And it is the ability to, with the scripts, and it's in Starting Point. We've demoed it probably 5 or 6 times, because in there, in the process of exporting, you have to deal with the file name, right? And
I think that he just wants to remove the extension from the file name.
Yeah, but and that's fine. You can do that, but you by the mechanisms of us dealing with the file name, all you have to do is isolate the dot and or the right dot, the right period, and then just substitute it out, right? So there you go.
Exactly, and that's what I was asking at. If you know that these file names will never ever have another period in them, then you can use the position function to identify where the dot is at. Then by figuring out where the dot is at, you can figure out what all the text is after it, and you can use the substitute command to wipe that portion of it out. But yeah, I think that you're right. I was in FMSP. One of our scripts somewhere grabs the extension name, so I was trying to find that to show. Oh, let me get that out of there. Thank you.
All right, cool.
Yeah, so somewhere in Starting Point, I'm trying to find, I think it was Brian that built this. We had a button over here on the documents that would add it and grab the file extension. I can't find that. The thing that you were talking about, Richard, is, I'm not in invoices. That saves it to a PDF, but we're creating the extension ourselves. It's not finding it. But I'm going to go over here to documents. So this is a section of the database that most people don't really come to in Starting Point. But whenever you drop something in a container, most of the sections of Starting Point utilize this part. So I basically just taken an Excel file that I have here. Ed, I don't know if you're dealing with PDFs, CSVs. I don't think that it necessarily matters. So yeah, excuse me, because I'm going to be doing this live. I'm going to go ahead and show you how I would solve this. Now, again, if your file name had dots in it, that would be an issue. So there might have to be some validations you'd put in place. I don't know if I'll cover that specifically, but the first thing you would want to know is where is the position of this dot? And so we've got a handy function here called position. Okay, so a lot of times if I'm using a function that I don't use all the time, I'll look at my precursors here so I know my inputs. I don't know if I'm saying that right. So I'm going to go ahead and put the text in here. The search string is what I'm looking for. So in this case, I'm looking for a period. And then I can tell it where to start and the occurrence if I want it. And I want the first one. And it's telling me that that's in the 12th position. So let's look at this for a moment just so that I can go back over that for anyone who I moved a little bit too quick for. So here's the file name that we're looking at. If I put my cursor here and start counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's the 12th position. So I now know where that is. So what? What does that actually do for me? Well, now I can grab some of the text. So I need to do a little bit more logic here. So now I want to know, what is the length of what I'm dealing with?
Yeah, but don't you have to, isn't that a container attributes thing? Or if you're doing the position stuff, it's just going after the file name.
Yeah, so to back up to answer
Yeah,
what
yeah.
Richard is
Why
saying
don't you take the time to do this? Because there's not a lot of questions, and people don't realize the questions that we have, right, on this. So why don't you don't go into the container attributes part of it and show them, right?
go into, do you mean find the container? Or
Yeah,
use
no,
the
no. Well,
get
you use that
attribute?
container. Use the get. It's a get function for get container attributes. over
Yeah.
there. Yeah. So.
So if you just drop something into a container and you ask what the container is, it will just tell you the name of the file. But there is a get container attribute that
Okay,
I don't use.
Yeah. And so just go ahead and select the field in there. This is well. Then if you don't use it that often, this will be educational for you too. So and then put. I think it's all over there on the attribute. I believe that to be the case. Is put all. All right, there we go. So here's the deal. This is the secret sauce that you need to know. FileMaker keeps all this stuff. Sometimes it'll keep the lat and long of the GPS coordinates if it was a picture on a. I've had people do that where like, hey, Richard, you're putting photos out there and the lat and long is embedded in the image. Now, if I was in the process of doing some sort of crime, like sneaking into Disneyland and killing Bugs Bunny or something or whatever. Oh, that's Warner Brothers, wrong place. You get the idea. I wouldn't want the GPS locations of the crime to be embedded. However, all this is metadata. It's saved in the image. It's hidden in the image in the file. When you just say, give me, so this is the all, right? And then if you say, just give me the text, what is it? What is that function? File name. So that right there is the
I'll go back to that.
yeah, the file. No, it's great. That is actually the specific way how you would target that specifically. However, the default behavior, which is what Christian was showing, right? So this is go back to what you were showing previously. Just go ahead and copy that into memory so we don't lose it, if you could.
Yeah, and sorry, while Richard was talking, I actually looked up the help because there's quite a few attributes. You can put
why
in
don't we
here.
look at this because this is really useful.
So, and I think we've gone over this in other ones, but I don't memorize all of the extensions. There's ones that or functions. There's ones that I use quite a bit. So if someone asks me to pull one up, I'll click on the help here to see what are the inputs that I can put in. Sorry, Richard, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're totally good. You keep going on this, but yeah, the point is that if you don't go through the attribute and ask for the file name, what command did you do before? Just get the text or and it defaults to just giving you the name, right? That was my point.
Yeah, if you just look, this is something I can't remember when I found this out, but if you just this is a container. This is what's kind of interesting about it. So this is the actual image, but if you put it in your data viewer, it's not going to obviously show you an Excel file or export it. So instead, it just gives you the file name.
So that's
kind
the
of
point.
Interesting.
The default behavior is if you go to a container and you're interacting with that code in a text environment, the default behavior is to return the file name to you. That was my point. But there's other things in there that you can go after. But the file name is the biggest thing. But one of the things is size of the images, things like that, which can be really handy. If you have some big fat containers that are really like video and they're clogging up your stuff, it'd be nice to know about that. Go ahead and go back to that help if you want to dig through that.
Yeah, because I feel like when we with that button that we have grabs the file extension, and so I thought there might be a custom function. So I looked for regular FileMaker functions and custom functions before I thought I'd just solve it manually. So it looks like you grab the file name. You can grab a whole lot of stuff out of this. So I'm kind of just glossing over. So basically where it asks for the attribute, if you put one of these items in like I did with file name, the result is going to give you that bit of metadata that's stored inside of the file. And there's quite a bit here. So I'm learning in real time. Awesome.
Well, the rub is like some of this stuff is really kind of goofy, like cover art, right? Oh, the only person I ever met who gave a flip about cover art was Nick Hunter, who built a version back in the day. When iTunes was a brand new thing, he built a version of iTunes in FileMaker. He built it for someone in Hollywood. I can't remember who it was. And it was like big, like A-list person. If I said it, you'd know who they're like a Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber. But you get the idea. Someone that if I said the name, you'd recognize it. He built it. And so he really could never give it away because it wasn't his to give away. But he used some of that stuff that was really out there. Yeah,
So another thing that's useful here, if any of you haven't used this, is it'll give you examples of some of the inputs you can get in here and the outputs you would get. So I was trying to see if all gives us the extension, but none of these look like they actually output the extension.
Yeah, you're going to have to find if it's the right period, if there's a right period, and get it from that. Hey, go ahead and scroll down because there's really important something to know in here. But go back. Stop. Go back. We're looking for the signature. When we get get container attribute.
The signature one?
Yeah, signature attributes. Okay, go down, scroll down. Let's see if there's any more data on that one. Because one of the things is that if you get big into doing signatures, understand, I'm going to flip the camera here a little bit. Containers, so we're looking at your screen. They can also see me, Christian. So the issue with containers is that they are, when you do a signature on a document, they're stored in a container. One. Two, it's pretty easy for someone to try to copy that container and paste it into another container. So like my signature could get you some things at RCC. And I have had people try that, identity theft and things like that. So what you end up doing is you end up in a situation where you have a signature in a container, but it's not really a real signature because either it was a scan or a photo or a copy and paste from a real signature. So FileMaker has this built-in security that's pretty deep. And what it will do is it will tell you and verify for you absolutely that that signature is a real signature and it's not just a photo. So if it's a signature, it will say it's a signature. As soon as you copy and paste it or do it like a set field or anything like that, I'm not sure about a set field, but pretty much if anyone tries to manipulate or screw with it, it defaults back to being a photo, not a signature. And those get attributes, Oleg, who was the engineer at FileMaker who originally built this years ago, and he's moved on to PayPal or someplace. He's over somewhere. VMware, making a ton of money. He's making quite a bit more money there. He wrote all this and did some DevCon presentations on understanding how the signature, how that part of the software worked, and how to make sure it was secure and stuff like that. He had these really great presentations. So if anyone's interested in knowing more about the signature security, post it here, and what we will do is we will I'll find the video and we'll put a link to it somewhere. I don't even know if it's Claris's own. They own the content technically, but it's so old I don't know that they would care. It's from like 5 years ago. So because typically they do is they post DevCon videos, and even if the content's current, they will pull videos down and remove them. So anyway, Scott says this is good stuff. Keep going. People are here. They're just not being super chatty. I think everyone's in the downer because of the rocket launch that got scrapped due to weather. So, all right. So what do you got, Christian? Are you like billing stuff? What are you doing?
I didn't know if you could still see my screen. So
yeah,
really quick.
They're watching me talk and they're watching you code. And their brains, there's like a left and right brain. So one eye is going this way. You ever see somebody where their eyeballs are going different directions? That's what we're causing to happen here. So.
I was going real fast, but I can explain it all in one moment. And I think I solved the problem of multiple dots as well. So size equals length minus position.
All right, so we're going to see here. We hold up our little judge scoring sheets, like for him to see if he gets a 5 point. The East German judge gives you a 5.5. Of course, people I say East German, and people go, what? Right, so you date yourself instantly. All right, Christian, where were you in 1980, late 80s? How old were you, late 80s?
I was born in 85.
Yeah, so you don't remember the Cold War. Never mind, cancel. All right, so East Germany is not a thing he knows about. All right, cool. Moving along. I'm dating myself. We're all staring at you coding, Christian. We're all wondering.
Almost done. I'm almost.
Should I like dance and sing a song while you're trying to write this?
I don't know if that would help me. Yeah, so I'm just going to explain this real quickly. I'm going to kind of assume that most of you in here have done some level of scripting, and so look, we've got someone who's got a solution there. Have done some level of scripting. A let statement is phenomenal because it's basically scripting in the calculation engine, and so in a script, you'll notice that you have things that are variables. You'll see the single $sign as a local variable that terminates at the end of the. Let me close the launch because it distracted me. It terminates at the end of the script, and then you've got global variables that clear when you manually do it or the file closes. So when you write a let statement, you can declare variables inside of the let statement, and you can call them whatever you want to. This could be called file name. It can be called $ file name. I follow a method that was taught to me, and so it's what I continue to use. I use this little tilde symbol, and then I declare my variable. Basically, I've taken the name of the container, and I've declared it as this variable. So anytime I reference tilde file name, it is going to reference this. The next thing I did is we're looking for a dot, and really you don't need this, but maybe I would want to use it for something else in the future. And rather than looking for a dot, I want to look for an asterisk or anything else. So I like declaring all of my things as variables because then I can change them in the future to do different things for me. So just like any other function that you write in FileMaker, these would be my inputs right here. Here's the process that takes place, and then I have a result that happens. Now, everything in between these brackets is basically the variables that you set, and variables can be a calculation that takes place, and you can just ignore this. I copy the white area, if you will. The way that mine is styled is directly copied off of what another senior engineer taught me. I like having my little semicolons in the front versus the end, and it's just spaced out. So let's talk about what's going on here. Sorry, one other thing. After the bracket, you can have a calculation take place. Personally, I always just use the variable result, and here's the reason why I do that. If I want to see what any of these are, because what I'm writing isn't working, especially in real time or coaching whatnot, I can look at them. So let's see what file name says. File name is the name of the file. Go figure. What is dots? And this is maybe where I've made the mistake. Dots is 1. So I mentioned that, well, what happens if the file name has more than 1 dot in it? So now I'm going to use a function called pattern count. I'm going to look at the name of the file, and I'm going to count how many of my symbols or dots are in it. If there's only 1, fantastic. But if there's 2, I'm going to know that. And if anyone's not familiar with pattern count, I'm going to show this really quickly. So if I had a file name that looked like this, my.file.fmp12, I'm going to have that issue that there's multiple dots in here. Now, if I look for a dot in it, it's going to give me a result of 2. One of the things that position asks us for is what occurrence do you want to find? So if I find the first one, I'm going to have an issue because everything after that is not the extension. But by doing pattern count, I can figure out that there's actually 2 dots in here, and I can say that I'm going to want to get the position of the second dot, not the first dot. Okay, so then I come over here to position, and let's see if we get the 12th that we do. So we get 12. That's great. So now I know in this file name that we were dealing with, where is the position of that dot before the extension. This is where I think I've made a mistake here. And what I want to figure out now is what is the length of that extension. So let's look at file name again for just a moment. So file name here, once we get the dot, what I need the result of extension to be is 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll also get rid of the dot with it. So ultimately it would be something like 5. So let's take a quick look and see what extension says to see what's wrong. And also length just tells me the total number of characters in this word right here. So we know that the dot's in the 12th position. If I look at length, I can, if I spell it correctly, I can see that that doesn't seem correct.
So you're using the little tildes in there to like cut, so
Basically,
we know that.
Declare, you could think of it like this. There's no reason I don't do that.
Yeah, I know, because that would be confusing as hell. So you use a tilde. That's a great idea. So it's like so we're telling that that's our variable within the let environment. I like that so much. I like that. You just made my day. I've never seen that. I love that, because otherwise you're declaring these variables in here, except they're not really, they're like not a local variable, not a global variable. They're like something that lives just in this statement, right? And then it dies.
Kind of.
Well, unless it's
I don't
global.
know if today's. Well, no. Today's topic isn't necessarily on that, but let statements are a magical thing in FileMaker. If I do this, I did just make a variable.
Yeah, but it won't
I can
live.
reference that I can reference that variable outside of the let statement. until
the script terminates and it dies.
No, watch. Well, I mean, I want to solve this, but I can show someone some magic. Well, so actually, I found out my issue, and I might not be able to solve it live. So the issue right now is I need to know the total length of the file name. So we know that the dot is in the 12th position. So I would expect length to give me, what, 14, 15, 17. But when we look at length here, it's giving me something substantially higher than that. And I think what's going on here is Richard brought up at the beginning of the conversation, this is like a default thing that's happening by giving us the file name, but it isn't the file name. It is a container. And so when I do length, it's probably giving me like the size or something.
No. It's giving you all that text bundled together into one big thing. So you need to go and say file name equals get container attribute
file name.
File name. Yes.
Yep. See?
Yep.
So if anyone's thinking about the coaching program, you can see very much what it
we are actually, if you would like to, Christian could hire you and you could teach him how the get container attribute works.
I had a customer teach me something, I want to say last night or this morning. I love coaching because generally I am teaching my customers things, but there's a lot of stuff in the software. And every once in a while, I will have a customer teach me something. So we want to do file name extension. That gives me the 16th position. Beautiful. So we're going to call this size. Pump that up a line. And then I'll show people a piece of magic after this.
They have to pay extra for magic, right? We just so whatever you paid to get in today, it's going to be a 20% surcharge on top of that. So
this is the result.
I need to refresh my diet Coke. Hang on.
Good. The reason I'm still getting 16 is I have the length being displayed down here as the result versus the result. But we also want the dot. So there we go. Now, that's not actually what you were looking for, Ed. That just gives us our target. So let's do this now.
Hang on, here we go.
I forgot that the actual problem isn't finding the extension. It's removing it. But that's the easy part. Now we're going to use the substitute command. I'm going to look for file name. And then in the substitute command, you can target something. In this case, it's the extension. And I'm going to replace it with nothing. Boom. So if you see that, Ed, our input is file name, and our output is result. Now, I've been watching the thread as I'm typing this. I think someone had another solution, and that is one of the things that's really cool about this. There's typically multiple ways to solve things. I thought that there was already a FileMaker function to kind of do this for us. Not knowing what it is off the top of my head, I know that I can solve the problem by writing it out. And I might actually save this as a custom function myself because maybe I don't want to look for a dot. Maybe I want to look for an asterisk or anything else in there. But that's how I would solve that.
So let's talk about this because TK55678 has a really great topic here. You're fine there. Just leave it up. But this is a really good topic. And so let's do me a favor. Can you you lost your let there. Can you give me a new let? I don't know.
Yeah. Or just like a fresh one, or go back to it.
Yeah. Well, I need you to define a let. Let's just do that. Like, go and define me. I need a string of text, like 5 words, in there. Like the fox jumped over the lazy beaver, or whatever it is, right? Test needs to be. Yeah, there we go. Fox jumped over the lazy beaver and cat on Saturday. Hopefully the rocket doesn't blow up. Okay, so what we want to do is in between these words, I want to leave a space here, okay? And then I want you, and we're going to play with this a little bit. So what we want to do is, can you give me the left word, please? Just give me the left word and display that down the result. Because this is where a Stormtrooper is going with this thing. The trick is that it's not as easy. Well, it's just there's some like hidden like little bombs in there and like landmines you're going to run into. So, all right. So, there we go. Okay, Fox jump. So now you have first, actually, let's just do one word, okay, just for simplicity. All right. So here's what is that TK55678 in the Twitch side said, hey, to get the extension, all you have to do is get the right word. So remember that it was a file name and then a dot and then there was the extension. The dot is considered a separator on a file name under most conditions, right? And so that's what I want to talk about. Go ahead and put a dot right there for me, and then let's have that update. Just put, not a space, yeah, just like that.
Yeah, I was getting rid of the space.
Okay. Now, in this case, it considers it one word, right? And so he was saying use get container write words, file name field 1. I'm not sure that would have worked.
I don't think it would actually, because if there's no spaces, it's going to see it all as one. Now I would test it to see.
Yeah. Go ahead and test it because he's pretty smart. So let's see if we can. If he's smoking the crack of the empire.
And with the example that I have in here, it might very well work. Let me turn that off. But I don't know if it will work with all examples. So we'll do a couple things. So I'm going to.
Well, just give it a name. Profitability.txt.
I think it has to be, because we're doing get container attribute, we do have to use a container. So we'd have to go make another one. So 1 second, where's document container, attribute name, file name.
We don't need a let in this case. Okay, so now we just
Correct.
take all
I'm
that.
just gonna write, I'm going to
embed it.
Right
Yeah, so get right word, yeah. Get right words. And then comma 1, and let's see if it does that.
Oh no, in this one it did not either.
Yeah, and so his idea is great, except it doesn't quite work. And the problem is, so you want to go back? There's no undo, but I'd love to go back. Actually, we can use this right here. We can use this right here.
I have your Fox jumped over the thing saved.
Oh, do you have that still? Yeah, go back to that.
Oh, of course I do.
Yeah, okay, great. Let's go back to this. So let's talk about what constitutes a space. So a space creates one word. So I'll go ahead and just do that up there, top. Just going to change the space. Okay. What about a dash, like a minus sign? Let's try that. Okay. That's a space. What about an underscore?
I would have assumed that would consider it one word. I'm surprised that it doesn't.
It should be one word. You clicked out. Does he have to click out, or is it did update?
No, it's the
it's automatic evaluate. Okay, so what about like a star, like an asterisk? Let's try that. Okay, so that's one word.
The asterisks. Oh yeah, one word.
Yeah, so space, star. Now here's the rub with this. FileMaker, I'm going to switch back to just kind of so they can see me here briefly. This is kind of an important point. You would think this is concrete rules in the FileMaker platform. I need to caution everyone on this. If you're an advanced developer, so this is like a okay, so TK55678. You can read his comment there and process that, Christian. But the idea is that if you're an advanced developer, the periods and the dots and the things that constitute a word separator change under various conditions in context. And it's sufficiently complicated. So like, for example, I was trying to increase my score on the certification test. And this is an area where they're testing you. The problem is that literally it's like, here are the rules, and the list of exceptions is long as hell. It's like a long, and they don't have it in one place. It's like if you go to FileMaker's documentation, you do a substitute command or a filter, and you start reading some of their examples down there, you'll start to see where underscore is not is not a separator, for example, right? And so a period is or is not, a comma is or not, a colon, a semicolon, all these things can do this, and the rules for how they generally behave a consistent way, generally, but you need to be aware it's not written in concrete, and you need to look at it and test it and not just assume it will always work for you. Because I can tell you based on the context, and obviously the engineers at FileMaker, and I'm thinking specifically of Galt and Clay and the guys that have been down there like 25, 30 years, they put the exceptions in there because there were situations that people were running into where they really needed to, based on that criteria. So there is some variation in how a word separator counts, if that makes sense. So just understand it's not in concrete. So I was trying to stay for the test. I said, if you just give me the list of exceptions or give me a concrete list, I will memorize it. I'll be smart. I'll do better on the test, right? Because every year I would study, right? And and if I don't study, then maybe I barely pass it. And if I study a little bit to remind myself, because I don't code as much as say Christian does. And it turned out that I couldn't get a comprehensive list of exceptions. I could not generate the list. And as a result, I figured it was really unwieldy, and I don't know if it actually existed in documentation anywhere at Claris. So just understand that it generally is, there are rules for that, but it's not locked in concrete, and it can change. And for example, the dot, I thought the dot would. So Christian, what do you have? What is TK talking about?
I'm not sure if I follow his, because he said I was using a screenshot. Now, if the file name were that with the dots, I'm not sure that that would work. In any event, I can tell you, TK, in the example that we have here, unless I'm missing something, the solution that you have wouldn't work, only that the file name is alumna space elite.xls. So you're right. We want to find the extension so that we can remove it. But if I use the right words, and correct me if I'm missing anything on here, but if we use the right words, get container attribute, file name, the first position, it's going to actually give me more than the extension on that. So it could still be a good technique that works a lot of the time, but not all the time. And that's a really kind of good point for a lot of people as they're building. I know a mistake I make and a lot of our newer engineers make is they make something and it works and they go, fantastic, I solved the problem. But you have to test lots of different variants. I can't tell you how many times I've had a customer go, Christian, I don't understand. It was working before and now it's not working. Why would that happen? And it's hard for some of my customers to understand that I can write something that's 90% correct, but there's still that 10% that will break it. So I think it gets down to how you're looking at that. Now, I can't put in the example that TK has only because it's just text. And if I put text in here, I don't think it's going to work because it's not actually a container. So like if I did something like 20.20, and I'm not sure if I click on his link, if I actually get like an image. Yeah, see, I would need to put a container in there. I don't know if I don't think I can click on. Yeah, see, if I click on his link in Twitch, it doesn't actually open.
Yeah, you can't put images in Twitch. Unfortunately, that'd be really awesome if you could. So
can I show them one cookie before we go? We can chat about it another day, though.
A real cookie.
A cookie. I got a cookie.
A cookie. I'll take a cookie.
So we can't. Can you show my screen real quick?
Yeah, we're
there. And again, we'll do this on another day. I won't show the outright black magic, but I wanna finish one part about the let statement and something you had said there that it's really interesting to know.
Oh,
so.
Yeah.
In our let statement here, Richard had said, if you set a local variable, it goes, in a script, it goes away, and it's nice having them separate in here. The black magic has to do with the local variable and something really unique that you can do with a let statement, but I want to show you a global one real quick.
Well, the globals you can set. You can set those in
you
here.
Can set both. So watch this. So all we are is in the data viewer right now. I'm not in a script. I'm just in the data viewer, and then I'm just going to set this to a 1. Okay, so I've got this global variable set up here. My result is 1. Nothing else is going on. Now, I don't know if we've talked much about the current tab, but that'll show you the local variables that have been set in the file that you're dealing with. And you might notice that all of a sudden, we've got Fox jumped. And if I come back over here and I change this to a 2 and come back over here, Fox jumped over, it changes. Let statements can absolutely create local and global variables. I don't know if this will work in the data viewer, but here's where things really get mysterious. Let's see if this actually works or not right now. There it goes. That's weak. I don't think we can really broach on this, but you can do some really interesting things.
Yeah, you can't.
That.
I mean, because it's not supposed to exist outside of the script. So. Right, because you define a local variable, but as soon as that scripting sequence ends, the local variables are dumped. The global ones, the $$ ones, stay until
this is. I don't know if you noticed. This one's a single $sign.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why.
It's that's part of the reason. It's not the only reason I do not use $signs in my let statements, because if I use a common text value, I might overwrite a variable or set a variable that I don't realize and interfere with a script or some other process.
Go ahead and just for fun, go ahead and close this out. Close that. Okay,
I'm quite familiar with this one. I can show you a lot of black magic.
No, go
to ahead.
Go to yeah.
Current?
Got the result.
It will not be in current. This only shows globals.
Okay, so it only shows globals, right? So you go back to watch, but see the watch. So go
watch
ahead.
This though.
What are you doing? You're in layout mode. Right, you're okay. Hang on, you're setting stuff, and my face is in your way here. You're just changing the color. All right, so you're going to show that. Okay, so you set it out, but you didn't set it in the context of a script. You set it outside. So
Yeah, watch this. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off in here now. So now it's no longer being set, and I'm closing the data viewer, but I am going to come over here, and I'm going to go to the hide calculation, and I'm going to set it here. Display.
This is some of the stuff that Matt Petrowski does. They actually puts code into the layout. The problem is some of the stuff is not supported officially by FileMaker. So
yeah, that's why this is the dark side of the force.
Yeah, well, the path to hell is paved with dark side Sithy stuff. So it's you have to know how things work if you're going to use them. I use this a lot, but if you don't know how it works, you can run into yourself. All right. Well, make sure if you're coaching, explain to people what you're doing, because you're basically you're doing 110 on the freeway, and no one knows why you're doing it. So there you go.
Oh yeah. That's why I say this is more out of the dark magic. But I think that it's important, not that everyone goes out and uses this technique that I showed. It's more vital that people understand that when they do write a let statement, those things transfer outside of the let statement. And further, when you're using your data viewer, if you're setting global variables or variables in it, or things are happening, this interacts with your layout and your scripts. I've written functions before as I'm trying to make things work in my data viewer, and I think that a process is broken, not because it's broken, but as my script runs and the data viewer is open, two things are trying to set a variable to the same name, and they run into each other. So like Richard said, if the speed limit is 65, we're driving 110 here, you better damn well know how to drive the car, or you will crash it and it will burn. But it's important to know how the car can do those things. So we can always chat about that later. But
okay,
I wanted to show that cookie.
So Ed says just as long as it's not a hack. And this is Nick. This is definitely a hack. It's like so.
And
anyway,
I do not get credit for this. This is definitely taken from other people.
Oh yeah. Well, it's one of those things that's an undocumented issue, and the question is they're not supposed to exist outside that scripting context. So if you use them, and then in some future version they don't work because someone has a new version of the product, and they remove that accidentally. Because see, and I'll leave you with this. It's kind of an important concept to understand. FileMaker has a QA certification process. So they come up with a new product and they go through a QA certification. What he did is not on the certification. So if they have a new version and suddenly that doesn't work, too bad. They're not going to feel too sad about it, unless they have documented this somewhere in a knowledge base where they acknowledge and they say this is a supported feature, right? So then it would be part of the QA process, and we would hold them to making sure that worked. But just always be careful with that would be my thought. All right, cool. We're going to call it a good today. We'll pick it up tomorrow with more awesome stuff. Hopefully get iMog to show up. Bunny, if you have questions, that's great. I'm going to be waiting for HBH to cause problems for me. I'm going to be tough. So when he tries to blow me up, I will resist the urge to just detonate. And Ed's got great questions. And Andre, make sure Andre, if you have any new sample files you want us to show, send it to us, okay? We will take a look at your comments and incorporate those for tomorrow. Appreciate everyone. We'll catch you on Thursday, 1 o'clock, fmtraining.tv, where you learn great FileMaker stuff. Appreciate it. Maybe. Or it doesn't work. There it goes.
Guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read. good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Try to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but then he makes the grab.